this is Maya from the Worldwide Good News, and I have some really special guests today with me. Guests, because Libby's going to be the first guest. Libby Traubman, an amazing, amazing peaceful warrior and good friend. And Libby has been doing dialogue groups, peace facilitating events, and so much more for how many years now?
Oh, going back to the 80s at least, if you count our work with the Soviets during the Cold War.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
They're really creating dialogue between humans, and you focus a lot on the Jewish-Palestinian conversation, dialogue, but you do so much more. Can you tell me more about what have you been doing lately? What other dialogue groups have you facilitated?
I would say that the beginning of our earliest dialogues, starting in the Soviet Union, was where we understood that if you don't know the enemy or you don't see the enemy face to face, then you can keep projecting they're the enemy. But we had a very amazing experience going to the Soviet Union during the Cold War and telling our personal narratives to the enemy and understanding, making this heart connection that was very powerful. We didn't really understand the full implications of how that was going to affect our future decisions that we were making along the way. But as we began to hear about other conflicts, and we were invited to work with Armenians and Azerbaijanis and with black and white couples and individuals, and then ultimately about 20 years ago, Palestinians and Jews. And all of that work has been based on the same understanding that an enemy is one whose story you have not heard. So everything that we do is really based on the premise that if we make that heart connection as well as a head connection, we can really begin to bring about trust, seeing each other as human and equal, and begin to change the nature of a relationship.
Yeah, that is, there it is. I mean, that is the simplest concept that for some reason is still eluding some of us. That really the heart connection, the human face-to-face connection should be easy and relaxed and comes through listening and really listening to the other's story and not projecting that is our story immediately, but actually listening and falling into somebody else's world, right?
Yes.
And letting that world open up to you for the first time.
Yes. You know, I came from a very limited background. I grew up in Indiana, and my world was very small in terms of having a global view and understanding that we are all interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. And it wasn't until I moved to California and saw a much more diverse population that I began to understand how limited my paradigm was and how narrow my thinking. And it wasn't that my story wasn't valid, and it was important to me, and I'm not giving it up. But there's so much more. There's incredible richness in meeting people who think differently than I do, who have a different life experience, who see the world through different eyes. And so I think that's kind of what's kept me engaged all these years, is saying they're interesting, they're wonderful people. These people that I heard about when I was little that might be scary or threatening, they're fabulous. So it's a whole way of thinking that I was blessed to be able to have by leaving a limited space and moving into a world that was much more open and interesting.
Oh, that's great. And this leads me to the next and final question or inquiry is really what is that keeps you in this conversation, that keeps you showing up with dialogue with different people, connecting them together? What keeps you going? Because this is, I think, a question that some people might have of, like, you know, when there's bad times, how do you keep the hope going? How do you keep the dialogue going? So how do you find that for yourself?
I'm a personality type that could get kind of bogged down in why things are bad.
Yeah.
And where are we going from here? So it's really important for me to stay on the path of knowing that we have a choice. And there's the positive out there, and there's also the negative. And if I focus on the negative, it leaves no energy or room for the positive. So I try to surround myself, knowing that about myself, with people who are hopeful and people who want to build a better kind of world and don't want to stay home and say, oh, what good do we do? And I have experienced that I make a difference in the choices that I make. So I try to stay on the path of staying hopeful, working with people who have the same hopes and dreams for a better world, the world that we all deserve. Yeah. And it keeps me going, and I'd say meeting people like you, younger people who see that and are doing something really significant to shake us out of our passivity. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, thank you, and that's why I do it, because I want to hear people saying that and know that we're all on a great path to get together, and we're doing it. It's not something that is unreachable. It is possible. Thank you so much, Libby.
Thank you.
And thank you all. This was Maya from the Worldwide Good News.